We're taking a mini break from our running content of our Couch to 5K series, and we're going to be focusing on what we can do to help our bodies adapt to this new running load. So I'm going to be covering some basic yet effective strength and conditioning exercises, as well as answering some more of your questions. All right, you guys, I'm afraid, are stuck with just me this week because sadly Pippa's had to have a couple of weeks off running, and she did offer me Wilma, which is very kind, and I know you guys love her, but I didn't think she'd be that much of a help when it comes to strength and conditioning. Now, if you've been following our running program, you've hit the halfway point last week, and it's often around 3 to 4 weeks of doing a new sport or suddenly increasing the intensity that little blips can start to appear in the road, and this is completely normal. If you have had to have a couple of sessions off or maybe even a week, then there's no need to stress. If you were doing well up to that point, then you can simply just pick up where you left off. If you were starting to struggle a little, or maybe you've had 2 or more weeks off, I would recommend going back to the beginning and building up from there, because if you remember, it does start to ramp up quite quickly from here. I want to start with a couple of your questions from last week's videos. They lead us nicely into what we're covering today. So this first one from Gordon Allen. The activation exercises look great. Would you do them just before running, just after running, or on rest days? Well, the fact that they are activation exercises, they are predominantly designed to be done before your run, but that doesn't mean they need to be limited to just that. And you can actually do them on your non-run days, and think about adding in an extra set or making them a little bit harder so you can really get those glutes firing, and it will still cross over to your non-run days. And glutes are usually the weak point for runners, especially those who've got injuries, so it's a really great area to focus on. And if you do go to the gym and do some strength work, these exercises are brilliant to incorporate as part of your warm-up there too. Right, next question comes from Lord Noodle. After I cool off, I feel a bit of pain in my knees. Took a week off, doesn't seem to go anywhere. Any tips? Well, running or any intensive type of weight-bearing exercise is going to have your legs obviously working much harder than they're used to, and this will result in your muscles getting a little bit shortened and having that tight feeling, which is pretty common to start to lead to little niggles, especially in your knees when it comes to running anyway. And we've actually covered this in a lot of detail in a video called Runner's Knee, so you can check that one out if you want. But if you make sure you follow a pre-activation routine and then do some post-run stretches, it's the best way to get on top of these sort of problems. So on that note, I want to cover some body weight strengthening exercises that you can add in that will complement your running, and we're going to finish off with some post-running stretches. Right, the squat is where I'm going to start, because this is one of the best exercises that basically engages all of the muscles in your legs in purely one exercise. And we're keeping everything body weight to start with today, but basically I want you starting with your feet just wider than hip width apart, toes pointing slightly out, just in a very natural position. And from here, I want you to simply bend your knees, flex your hips, so you're dropping your bottom down towards the ground, trying to keep your chest nice and upright. You can put your hands on your hips or out in front of you, whatever feels more comfortable, and go down as far as you can and then come straight back up to standing. And if you can aim to repeat it 10 times to start with, take a rest of around a minute and then do another once through or even twice through. And if you do want to progress this further or have a gym nearby, you can start to think about adding in some weights, but for now just concentrate on body weight only. A nice progression on from this is the split squat. So start with both feet together, take a large step forwards as though you're into a lunge, and from there make sure your hips are square so they're facing forwards. It's quite a good idea to put your hands on your hips to make sure that it sort of reminds you you're in the right position, and you're simply going to lower yourself down towards the ground. So your back knee will be going down towards the ground, and then you're coming back up so your legs are straight into that split. And then if you repeat that, if you aim for 8 on one leg, come back to the start and then put the other leg forwards and do 8 on the other side. And again, aim for 2 sets, maybe even 3. Now to focus a little bit more specifically on the posterior chain, so those muscles at the back, predominantly your glutes and your hamstrings. Going to be repeating but progressing an exercise we did last week, so the hip bridge. So the basic version is starting off lying on your back with your knees bent and then simply lifting your hips up towards the sky or the ceiling. You can progress this by taking it to single leg, making sure that your hips are still level and you're basically repeating the same but on one leg. But the next step further would be to actually put your heels up on a chair or a bench or something that's above the ground, and from there lift your hips up, and you'll suddenly find that much harder again. And if you're still able to progress, you can do one foot on a bench or the chair, and then you're basically doing that in a single leg version. And for this exercise, aim for, I'd probably say 6 on each leg, because it's quite hard if you're doing single leg, and then 2 to 3 sets. I know we're focusing on running strengthening exercises, so you might be slightly confused by these next two, but we're going to look at upper body as well, because believe it or not, when we're running, we do actually need to engage our upper body and our core. So it's the good old press up that covers both of that. It's not one of my favorite exercises, but it does definitely tick all the boxes. So you know the good standard press up with your hands just wider than your shoulders, elbows nice and in by your side, and you're going to just lower your body down towards the ground as close as you can and push back up again. If you find that too hard, it's perfectly fine to do it on your knees. Just make sure that you have a straight line going from your knees through to your shoulders and your bottom is in line. And for this one, it's a bit of a basically how many you can do, but if you start off by aiming for 3 sets of 5 and then build that up so you get up to 3 sets of 10. And finally, this exercise might need a little bit of imagination if you don't have a gym, but we've done the pushing version of the upper body. I want you to try and engage the muscles at the back and the pulling side of things, which is especially important for running, because you think you're pulling your arms backwards, which is going to help propel you. So it's a version of the upright row. Now, if you have a TRX or some sort of cables, you can simply do that. You'll want to have it in front of you, and you're going to be pulling your body weight up. The further you put your feet underneath it, the harder that will be. Alternatively, if you've got a rucksack or a bag of some sort that you can fill with something heavy like some books or some wine bottles, and then you can do an upright row. So standing with your knees slightly bent and having your arms straight, holding whatever items it is, and you're going to be simply pulling that into your chest, so you'll be engaging all those back muscles and working your triceps as well. We've covered strengthening, so now it's time to look at stretching. Just make sure you always do these after a run or after some sort of exercise when you're nicely warmed up. And for all of them, hold them for a minimum of 30 seconds to get the full benefit. Let's start off with the calf muscles. You've got a choice here of either standing with your hands against the wall and pushing your weight down into your heel to feel a stretch that way. Alternatively, you can stand on a step with the ball of your foot on the step, dropping your heel over the edge, and you'll start to feel a stretching feeling in that muscle belly part of your calf. If you then want to bend your knee slightly, you'll feel that stretch move further down, and that's moving into a different part of your muscle. Now moving up the leg, staying at the back, we can look at the hamstrings. You've got the option of either putting one leg out in front of you and bending the opposite leg. It's a straight leg, you'll start to feel a stretch as you bend your hips down towards that leg. You should feel a gentle pull at the back of the hamstring. Alternatively, I actually prefer to put my heel up onto something like a chair and then lean over that. You can just get that stretch a little bit deeper into your hamstring. Now, front of the leg, we've got the quads. So we want to try and isolate the quads to start with. A really simple one is standing up for this. Find something to hold on to so that you're not challenging your balance and you can really focus on the stretch. Get hold of your foot with the hand on the same side and pull that foot towards your bottom. But the key here is making sure your hips stay facing forwards and you're not tipping your whole body, because then you're not really getting a stretch. And also make sure your knee stays parallel to the opposite knee, and then you'll really start to feel that stretch isolated at the front of the quads. Progressing this one onto hip flexors, and it's a little bit different because it's still the front of your thigh, but it's moving further up, and this is a really key one for running. For this, take it into a lunge position, so you've got a sort of already got a stretch on at the front, and then you can start to drop that back knee down towards the ground to make the stretch a little bit deeper, or even raise your arms up, anything that's going to be lengthening out this area at the front. Glutes are obviously a key area which we've spoken about a lot already, so we need to do some stretching as well. There's a couple of options and you might need to work out what works best for you, but start off sitting down and with both legs out straight, take one leg, bend it and put your foot on the outside of that opposite leg, and then try and hug that knee in towards you. You can even start to rotate your body away from that knee and you'll start to feel a kind of gentle pull down the outside of your leg and into your glute. That works perfectly for some people. You might want a more intense version when you need to actually lie on your back, and you're going to rest your ankle over the thigh of the opposite leg, and then that bent leg, you're going to thread your hands sort of through the triangle and pull that thigh towards you. So you've kind of got a triangle shape, and you'll start to feel the stretch in the leg that's resting over the top of the one that you're holding. And hopefully with the demonstration it'll be much clearer, and just make sure you swap it over onto the other side. And then finally, just a quick one for upper body, which, relevant of whether you've done these strengthening exercises, is great to counteract the postures that a lot of us spend our time in, sat at computers, for example. It's a bit of a chest opener, so a pec stretch. For this one, you just simply need to find a wall and then place your hand and maybe your forearm on that wall as you're facing it, and then rotate your body away from your hand and your arm until you start to feel a nice pull across the front of your chest. It's quite a pleasant stretch, this one. And all of these stretches are just ideas to get you started. You might find that some areas need more work than others, or you want to bring in different ones, but experiment with what works for you. Before we round up, there's just a couple of comments that I want to share with you guys. This first one from Michael Gainsford. Hi, what pace should we be doing for the walk and the jog? At the moment, my jog at week 4 is 7:15 and my walk is 9:30. Well, Michael, I just want to reiterate, I think you won't be alone on this. I've had quite a few people wondering about pace, but it's something that I don't want you worrying about too much. We've touched on it in the past that I do need to see a difference, obviously, between the walk and the run, but the fact that you are running and you're walking will happen naturally. And when it comes to the walk, I want it to be at a kind of a power pace. So if you were walking with friends, you could still talk, but you're definitely walking faster than you would be just doing a stroll in the park. And when it comes to the run, at this stage, it's purely about just running. I do not mind how slow you are going, as long as you are physically running and moving forwards. And once you've reached week 8 and you've managed to run for that set time, then you can start to think about improving that pace. But at the moment, it's running for a set amount of time, and it's just about building that base up. So really don't stress too much about it, and I think you'll soon get to feel if you're working hard enough. If anything, it's making sure you don't walk too slowly, but the run will be making you work naturally as it is. Final point or comment here, it's quite a nice one. This comes in from JJ from Honolulu. Pippa, this is a message to Pippa, so hopefully Pippa's watching this one. I feel your pain, but remember, part of this is a mental game. When I feel like I just can't run anymore, I tell myself 10 more seconds, then after that, 10 more, and I try to stretch it out beyond the I can't do this moment. I listen to music when running and will often focus on the lyrics as a distraction. That sometimes helps. Just do your best. Well, I'm sure many of you can relate to those wise words. Brilliant to hear. Well, make sure you guys leave any comments, whether they're suggestions or whether they're questions, in the comment section below. And hopefully you are still on track. Remember that the session plan is in the PDF, which is in the description below. We've not covered it this week because we have sort of had a little hiatus. So if you are still on track, do progress onwards. If you're struggling a little bit, then now's a perfect time to rewind and join us when we're going to be covering weeks 7 and 8 in our next video. So hopefully you've enjoyed it, you're still on track. Give us a thumbs up if you've enjoyed it, and remember, you can follow us on our social media channels too.